Welcome back, everyone, to the Writer's Parachute, where we're guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. Today, we have with us, I am telling you, the most special guest we have ever had here on the Writer's Parachute. I am so excited. Total fangirl. And you're going to hear me flub a lot because Linda is like my idol in the publishing world. So we have Linda Radke from Story Monsters Inc. with us today. So we're very happy about that. Of course, we have the housekeeping to do at the top of the show. We want you to smash that like button, go ahead and hit subscribe, and don't forget the bell for notifications of new episodes. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now X, TikTok, and now on Threads. So you can catch us at Writer Parachute on all of those platforms. That is Writer Parachute without an S. So, of course, we also want to remind you that if you would like to get weekly updates in your inbox about new episodes on the Writer's Parachute, you can go ahead and sign up for our weekly update newsletter. And you can go to sendfox.com. That's SENDFOX.com/the Writer's Parachute. We'll have that in the show notes for you to go ahead and sign up for that. But don't forget, because you don't want to miss an episode. This has been an amazing season here on the Writer's Parachute, and we are so excited about more seasons to come. So, of course, always at the top of the show, we have a topic of the week, and I want to thank Linda for bringing this topic. We've been focusing on reviews here on season 2, about how to get reviews, what to do reviews, how to get more reviews, the different kinds of reviews, all the good, the bad, the ugly about reviews. So Linda is going to talk to you about a topic of her own, and it's about being a review detective, which I think is quite an interesting topic. So Linda, welcome and take it away.
Well, first off, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be with you doing this interview. That's number one. Being a book detective and trying to get your book reviewed. One of the things that I talk about in marketing and promoting a book, the first thing you should think about before you think about writing a book is how you're going to market it. And if you're an expert in your field, then that's fantastic. But if you're not, but you have the knowledge, then the next best thing is to get those who are famous or well-known in the field for which you're writing to review your book. So how do you find these type of folks to possibly consider reviewing your book? That's where I'm calling this, you're doing this detective work, and you're utilizing Google. And what you're doing is you're going to put in the topic of your book. You're going to find out other famous authors that are writing about, and maybe they didn't start out being famous, but maybe their expertise ended up becoming well known because of a great job they did on the book. So you find someone who is well known as an author, and you ask them to consider reviewing your book. But gee, do you just take your book in your hand and say, will you consider reviewing this book? You first have to get your ducks in a row. That means you have to have a dynamic media kit. And then I go back into my thing of do it right or don't do it at all. So when you're doing your media kit, if you're an expert in what you're writing about, but you're not an expert in writing marketing materials, then get someone who is. If you can't afford to use a company like Story Monsters LLC, that's fine. But find someone who's great at what they do. And that when I first started my business, it was 5-Star Publications. And about 10 years ago, I shifted to Story Monsters LLC. And I remember when I first started my business in 1985, I remember when I was working with Paul Howie, he was my editor, he was my proofreader, and he even did a little doodling. And he did a great job. But guess what? You can't have your editor be your proofreader. You need to have separate folks. You need to have a team. And I take pride in everything we do based around an excellent team that surrounds me. So make sure you have your ducks in a row. I'm working with an author right now. She doesn't have a media kit. She has a great book. And I says, well, where are you going to send folks? She's hired us to help get her book reviews outside of Story Monsters Inc. And she doesn't have a media kit. She doesn't have a website. I says, well, okay, let's talk about an alternative. Do you have a presence on social media, on Facebook? There are economical things you can do. If you can't afford to hire Story Monster to do your website, hire someone or work with a company that does it economically. But you're all excited about your book. You can't wait to share it with the world. And when you connect with the right person and they say, you know what, I really would like to review your book, but you're not prepared for it, you're going to lose out. You've cut the wrong corners. So then you go back to doing that detective work once you have all your ducks in a row. And then you find someone to review it. Now, for example, with Story Monsters Inc., INK magazine, we welcome authors, thank you. We welcome authors of children's book, pre-K through 12th grade, to contact my editor-in-chief, Christy at storymonsters.com, to submit your book for a possible review. Number one, we don't guarantee a review. Number two, we never have, and we never, ever, ever will pay or charge to have a book reviewed, because you lose credibility. And there's our contest. And when your book is chosen and it's reviewed in Story Monsters Inc., well, guess what? Our magazine is supported by Scholastic. It's supported by NEA, and on and on and on. It gets the kind of visibility you want. So make sure, one other thought about when you're doing your detective work. When you're doing research to get your book reviewed, or you enter a contest, you need to make sure you follow the guidelines of the organization that you're hoping to have your book reviewed. And I will give you an example. Magazines that are like, in terms of the industry, they're like the Bibles, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, School Library Journal. They have guidelines you need to follow. And if you don't follow those guidelines, number one, it's hard to get a review, no matter how great the book. Number two, one of their guidelines is they want to see the book 90 days prior to it becoming available to the public. So let's say you have this great book, you don't take the right steps, and you present it to Publishers Weekly, and they're looking at it and they're thinking, hey, we might want to interview the author and review this book. Guess what? You contacted them after it was live. Well, they want to know about those book babies before they're born. Mm-hmm. So once again, it's doing your homework, doing your detective work, creating a list. And I'll tell you something that we do at Story Monsters LLC when we're hired to create a list. I have lists that I have, my team, we've researched it. Guess what? 3 months later, the rules change. 6 months later, the person reviewing the book, they're no longer with the company. Guess what? It shifted from sending a review copy because of everything that was going on in the world. They shifted to wanting PDF files. In the past, they would never accept. But if you don't know that, the other thing is research the publications. Are they, and again, I'm focusing on children's book because everything we do is everything children's books. If you contact a magazine that focuses on airplanes, that focuses on anything and everything with books, you're wasting their time and you're wasting your time. And if you're hiring somebody, you're putting good money after bad. So it all comes when we're talking about, and when I'm referencing doing detective work, it's not just finding, gee, who's the best person? It's not a person. Encyclopedia of organizations and associations. Sometimes it's doing research for associations. Mm-hmm. I have a book that I published many years ago, I Just Am, a story about Down syndrome awareness. Well, if I target my audience and my marketplace on Down syndrome organizations, I have a much higher chance of getting that book reviewed and the author interviewed. Now, once again, I'm going to go back to getting your ducks in a row. So you've got this great list, but now we're going to go back to, do you have a website? Do you have a place to call home for your book? And if you say, I don't need a website, I don't need social media, well, then I'm gonna ask you to answer the question. Even if they review your book and they give you a fabulous review, how are folks gonna find it? So look at investing the right dollars. It's okay to cut corners, but cutting the wrong corners could cost you distribution, could cost you sales, and can cost you reviews. And if you take an intelligent approach to doing your research, and really, if you have a children's book and you're trying to get it reviewed and you've done your research and you contact us at Story Monsters Inc., that's the first right thing you did. Now, the second thing is, and it goes back to getting reviews. Do you have a dynamic cover? I know I'm talking and bringing up different aspects of getting a review, but if you want to get a review and they look at the book, and let's say you truly have written a great book, but your cover design looks amateurish. Guess what? They say you can't judge a book by its cover. Guess again. So guess what? You saved and you hired your cousin to do your book cover design, but unfortunately, your cousin is not a professional artist, okay? So look at the foundation you're creating from the get-go. And if you invest from the get-go, then you're going to have a better shot at what I call a winning chance. So let's see your books. Let me see your cover.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Linda. And I just want to add a few thoughts of my own. So mostly what we're talking about is all of this pre-work has to be done. You have to set yourself up for success. The cover's got to be right. You've got to have your dates right. You need to, if you're reading about some place that does reviews or promotions or something in a magazine or a book, please go to that website and look at their up-to-date information, because what they're printing may be out of date. It may have changed. Always go verify that information direct from the source. Don't take it directly from a book or from a magazine, although they may be totally accurate. Save yourself some time and heartache. And what she's talking about is make sure you follow their guidelines. It is, as the old saying, you get one chance to make a good impression, and not listening to what they want from you, even if it sounds odd or ridiculous or different from everybody else, you still need to follow what they want. It's almost like it's a test to see if you're paying attention. So there is that. But what I really wanted to make sure that we reiterated here is about being a review detective. So she didn't really get to it. She kind of got off, but I loved everything that she had to say. But what she's talking about is, like, let's say that you have a book about a particular topic and there's so many other books about it. So what she's saying is go look up those authors, maybe go to Amazon, look at who's been reviewing their books, see if there's a way you can contact those reviewers, especially the professional reviewers. See if you can see where they're getting publicity and see if you can follow up, because obviously those places and those reviewers are interested in that topic. This is what we're talking about the detective, but also don't forget affiliated ideas. So, she's talking about Down syndrome in a book. Well, what about childhood diseases? Those are books you might want to go see who did reviews on those, or about, parents struggling with the children that have learning challenges. These are all affiliated ideas and topics that maybe you might get some good information from those too. So don't forget, put on your detective hat, use some of those skills, and go find good reviewers for your particular topic, your particular book, and your particular genre. Now, I know we focus mostly on children's books, especially because Linda's here with Story Monsters. But again, this pretty much will work for any book, any genre. So thank you, Linda, for that. So I want to properly introduce Linda. So Linda Radke is a publisher, publishing and marketing consultant. She has written 2 books and working on many, many more. And she's helped so many authors write books, publish their books, market their books. I couldn't even list them all if I wanted to. Her first book is Promote Like a Pro, Small Budget, Big Show. Right now, that book is only available through Book Locker, and we'll have the link for that for you. And her second book is The Economical Guide to Self-Publishing, How to Produce and Market Your Book on a Budget, which is available on Amazon. Linda Radke is the president of Story Monsters, LLC, and the publisher of Story Monsters, Inc., that's INK, magazine. For over 35 years, she has been ahead of the game in producing and marketing award-winning books for all ages. Clients and the media describe Radke as an industry leader in creativity, innovation, and customer service. She has received numerous publishing, public relations, and marketing awards, including being named Book Marketer of the Year by Book Publicist of Southern California. Tireless in her efforts to help authors make their dreams a reality, Radke's motto is, "You can't compromise on quality, do it right, or don't do it at all." Her foray into publishing began with a desire to print a how-to book for complement the household employment agency that she owned. A former special education teacher for grades K through 12, Radke is dedicated to helping children develop a love for reading and writing. To that end, she created the Story Monsters Approved Book Designation Program to recognize children's books that inspire, inform, teach, and entertain. In 2014, she published her very first magazine, Story Monsters, Inc., and the success of Story Monsters brand and Story Monsters, LLC to bring all of her services together under one umbrella in 2016. Her newest adventure is Studio Story Monsters, which is at studiostorymonsters.com, is a division of Story Monsters LLC, and the Story Monster theme song. The song is available to listen on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and DistroKid. So let's see, Radke's personal hobbies include camping, photography, and enjoying time with her family and their German Shepherd, Riley. She's also a member of the Children's Book Council, Independent Book Publishing Association, the Association for Rural and Small Libraries, and the National Foundation of Press Women, based in Chandler, Arizona. Linda Radke is, and it chopped it off here, so I'm going to have to guess. She's enjoying her time with her family and German Shepherd. So that's what I get for printing it out and not reading it first. That's my fault. So
Nice ad-lib.
trust me, go to her website. It has all of this amazing information about her and all of the things that she does. Welcome to the Writer's Parachute, Linda. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. I am so happy to have you here. You have been somebody that I've wanted to talk to and interview. I mean, we've met before, we've talked before. I've done a lot of things with the Story Monsters brand, but this is my first time getting to interview you, and I'm a little nervous. So just be patient with me. So you created this amazing author platform that, mostly for children's book, and you called it Story Monsters. And it includes a magazine, a book award contest, and a multitude of other services for authors. So I know we hinted about it a little bit, but I want a full answer now. What was the inspiration behind Story Monsters? And can you give us like a quick overview of all of the services that is included?
I will absolutely do my best to keep it quick. I won't promise. When I started my business in 1985 with 5-Star Publications, I helped all different types of, when I say authors, with different types of books and genres. And what I learned over those first 25 years, that when you're representing a little bit of everything, you have to recreate that wheel every time you get a new topic, okay? Well, with my educational background, I just have this passion that keeps going back to education. During the process of doing children's books, when I was 5-Star Publications, I started creating professional performance puppets to go with our books. And with that, it opened up a world for children and adults to really bring them into the world of, in this case, Story Monsters Press, Story Monsters LLC. And all of these puppets focused on a specific book I was publishing. And I says, no, wait a minute. There are far more books out there and authors out there that go way beyond 5-Star Publications or Story Monsters Press. So I decided to develop a character, a universal puppet, Story Monsters. So regardless of the children's book, there you go, they're Story Monsters. Because I found that having a puppet and having Story Monster, it had a wonderful way to bring the world of children's books together. So with that said, you might say that started the birth of Story Monster. Mm-hmm. You asked me, why a magazine? Why did I do Story Monsters Inc. when I had all these years of experience doing children's books and all different types of books? But I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to publish a magazine, but wanting to do something and having the right idea for a magazine are two different things. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to see how the world was embracing Story Monster. And I thought, that's it. My magazine is going to be called Story Monsters. And I thought about it. I said, no, I need to add something to that. I brainstormed with my team. I says, I know what it's going to be. It's going to be Story Monsters Inc., INK. And why the magazine and not books? When you do a magazine, we publish it monthly. What it does is it keeps the world informed about what's new in the world of children's books. It informs teachers and parents and librarians, and all of these influence our children. So to me, it was a place to bring it all together, and thus Story Monsters Inc. And it just keeps going into new places. Story Monster is a shapeshifter, and believe me, he does a lot of that.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love it. And for those of you who are interested in children's books, I've been on the reading list that you guys put out on a regular basis in the magazine. I've done ads in the magazine to promote my books, pre-promote the books. I've also obviously been included in the Story Monsters Approve in the awards program. And also with the author bookings, which is another affiliation that you use to help children's authors get into schools. I've also been part of your quarterly book bonanza. I think it's quarterly, right?
Yes, more or less.
Yeah. And I mean, I was blown away. The last one that I did with you, I had over 300 responses, either with requests for purchasing books or reviews, or requests for information on school visits, which just was amazing. So when I say this is the platform you guys want to go check out, I'm not kidding you. Everything that Linda does, all of the stuff associated with Story Monsters is exceptional, and it will get you results. You know, all you have to do is listen to what she has to say, take her advice, and I'm always truly amazed by the breadth and reach and the recognition that you get when you mention Story Monsters, especially in any kind of school or education platform. So I know I missed some of them. So what else did I miss in that?
Well, first off, thank you so much for providing that extra information. I want to emphasize something. I said in the beginning how you are welcome to submit children's books for a possible review. We don't charge for that. Yes, we offer advertising. Yes, we have reading guides. So I want to emphasize those are two different avenues, two different roads to take, and there's no strings attached whichever way you go. But I want to emphasize we never guarantee results. And while I'm thrilled at the results you achieved, I always try to be upfront, okay? And I always preface that we're about getting your book visibility. We can never guarantee sales, and you never know what one lead or one review or one ad might lead to. So I thank you for bringing up all of the above. We try to keep our entry fees reasonable, okay? We have bills to pay and running a company, but it all helps, okay? I do co-op things, and I do co-op festivals. And most recently, you know, I did something that I'm extremely proud of. I put together a campaign and I looked for sponsors that would help sponsor our Story Monster Lives Here greenie bag. And when we do events, we have our greenie bag. And oftentimes you'll see these greenie bags floating around the event every which way. So I thought, I want to take this now to the school. And so I put out word that I am wanting to give 1,000 Title I students a greenie bag filled with reading goodies and coloring books and crayons. So I did a co-op. And these incredible sponsors, they earned a place on my bag. And you know what? I was invited by a superintendent of schools to give out the greenie bags most recently at an event that was back to school for families and kids. And I was honored. And through that, there were a lot of vendors there, and we had our Story Monster mascot there. But you know what? Together, we are doing this. And together we are making a difference. So when they learn about Story Monster, they're also learning about Story Monster friends.
Right. Yes. And I am always, I every time somebody asks me and I don't have time to just go into all the details about, well, you could try this, you could try this. I'm like, you know what? Go to Story Monsters, look at their services, pick and choose. It's like, it's an amazing platform. You have so many choices, for awards, for getting, on, in the magazine, for getting reviews, for helping with promotion and marketing, and the co-op, and the different things that you do at the festivals. And I could spend hours just talking about all the services that you have, and it really just blows me away. So I know we talked a little bit about the magazine, and I absolutely love it. So I know you talked about sort of why you did the magazine, but I want to know how you came up with the idea to market this magazine and how it has impacted, getting children's authors out and known, because that's part of the hardest problem for any author, is to be seen and known about.
From the very first issue of Story Monsters, Inc., and we are approaching our 9th year anniversary next month. The very first issue, publicists with very well-known authors approached us and wanted their authors or clients, many of them celebrities, interviewed. And when we were approached, I believe it was by the publicist, and God rest his soul, Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Lee said to someone on our team, or the publicist related, LeVar Burton was on the cover right before the cover with Stan Lee. And he wanted to know if his cover was going to look as good as LeVar Burton's. It was fantastic. And when it was published, I received the most phenomenal note, and you'll see how much it means to me, because I keep this on my wall in front of my desk. And I received this email from my editor-in-chief, Christy Bertini. She says, Christy, get ready. This just came in from Stan Lee himself. Please tell the folks at Story Monsters, Inc. that I am pleased as punch with the cover, the article, everything Excelsior.
Oh.
And when you're small press, and let's face it, he probably has the world, he had the world at his fingertips. Right. For him to say that was the greatest compliment. I strive, and my team strives, for excellence in whatever we do. So when I market this book, I know it sounds crazy. A lot, it markets itself, because one cover leads to the next. And when when we had Jamie Lee Curtis on the cover, I mean, I could go on and on. When Kobe Bryant was on the cover, I mean, it was kind of like, what an honor. And the focus you're going to find, regardless of who's on the cover, whether they are known or not, and not all on the cover are well known. They support the love of literacy. They support kids. And what better role model? You know how when you talk about superheroes, are superheroes? Because if these kids see their superheroes on the cover of Story Monsters Inc., just maybe, they're going to want to read books too. And again, so we are grateful. We are grateful for these people for what they do, what they're supporting. And in many cases, they come to us and want to be interviewed.
It is amazing. I'm always so surprised, pleasantly surprised when I get my magazine each month to see who's on the cover, what's included, and to read these in-depth interviews and all the articles throughout the book. It's all a magazine. It's all very well done. We're going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to talk about your 2 books. Now, they've been out for a while. So as I said, the first one we're going to talk about is Promote Like a Pro, Small Budget, Big Show. Right now, it is only available through booklocker.com, and we will have a link in the show notes for you to that book so that you can go get your copy. I have my copy. I've read it. I love it. I have to tell you, I was telling her, Linda, in the green room that after I read the book, the first book, I had like 30 some questions, and I'm like, wow, we can't cover 30 questions in an interview. And then I read her second book, The Economical Guide to Self-Publishing, How to Produce and Market Your Book on a Budget. And I had about 40 more questions. So picking and choosing what questions we're asking today, I have to tell you, was really hard. So we're going to invite her back probably 6 or 7 times. We might get through most of it, but I'm sure I'll have more questions by then anyway. So just bear with us. We'll do the best we can. So in the Promotes Like a Pro, Small Budget, Big Show, and in the Economical Guide to Self-Publishing, How to Produce and Market Your Book on a Budget, which is available on Amazon, I want to know, I know from reading the book, but they don't know. So I'm going to ask you, what are the top 3 tips that you would give authors on marketing their books?
Be surrounded by excellence. Hire those that are smarter than you. I practice what I preach, and everything wonderful that I've had to say about Story Monsters Inc., I have to give credit to my team. And I want to do shout outs for Christy Bertini. She's my editor-in-chief. Jeff Yesh. He is the mastermind and illustrator behind everything Story Monsters, and he also lays out and designs each issue. And those two work together. It's amazing. And like they tease each other, and they continuously tell me that they're amazed that they haven't killed each other yet. Well, stay tuned. But you know what? They all strive for excellence, and they don't stop until they're there. And I love them. What can I say?
Okay, so first tip is excellent. So what are you going to say the next 2?
You know, in Promote Like a Pro, Small Budget, Big Show, you'll find that it's filled with advice from all different type of professionals. You know, when I talk about doing detective work with getting reviews, do detective work. Yeah, I want you to hire Story Monsters LLC. But there are other great folks out there. Learn where they've been, what they've done. And it's like you said, this is not your first rodeo. And so many times I'm working with professionals in other capacities, but this is their first rodeo or second. And you need to be thinking, you need to have a marketing plan. And that marketing plan is going to be your roadmap. And that roadmap is going to guide you through the first year. Now, what are you going to do the second year? And on and on. I published a series of books called the 60-Minute Shakespeare Series. I have 8 different books in this series. I started publishing, I think I started in the early 80s. I am still marketing and promoting them. And 2 of the books in the series, I've started entering film festivals. And I'm very proud to say we've won some film awards. But one of my 60-minute Shakespeare series book just won a film award for the script, as an example. Guess what? I published that in 1980. So I'm going to ask you now, fast forward. what do you see yourself doing in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And maybe, God willing, one day you're listening to this interview way down the road, and maybe you're answering what you're doing. Are you still at it? Don't give up. But not giving up means you're going to need to find new ways. There are books out there that give you tips. I remember reading a book that had I don't know how many hundreds of tips. And I found myself being overwhelmed.
Yep.
And the truth is, we are all overwhelmed with the possibilities. But take it one step at a time. Develop a plan. Hire a consultant to help you. You're going to find when you follow that plan, it's going to lead to new things. And then you're going to have to shift gears. You ask my team, and believe me, they'll tell you, I drive them crazy. I drive them crazy because when a new book, I have several books that have recently won film awards. And now I'm contacting Jeff. Jeff, we've made Amazon #1 bestselling in Kindle again. I says, I need to have a graphic design of that. Let's have it with Story Monster holding it. Mm-hmm. You know what? I can't begin to thank him for what he does. But the truth is I need it now. I don't need it 2 days from now. It's #1 right now. Mm-hmm. So find yourself a team. Mm-hmm. You can't have mine, but hire us, and you're going to be working with them indirectly. But find your golden team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are absolutely excellent tips, and and I'm just going to add a couple of things here. It's like, when you're talking about a marketing plan, I always tell people, I get this question a lot, and I'm like, you reverse engineer your marketing. You have to figure out what you want from the marketing, and then go figure out who can help you get there, and then how to get there. So you have to do it backwards. You have to know what it is you want. Do you want book sales? Do you want reviews? Do you want to get on a TV show? Do you want a bigger audience? Do you want an influencer to mention your book? Do you want to read it in front of a large audience? Do you want more speaking? Whatever it is you want, you have to know what that is and market towards that. Because if you just go, well, it's like Story Monsters does this, they'll let you do this ad in their magazine, so I'll do that. And then, you get it. And then a month later, you're like, yeah, but I didn't get very many sales. Okay, well, #1, did you actually ask them to buy your book or to review your book in the ad? You didn't do that. You just kind of made an announcement. You didn't have a call to action. And #2, you really didn't do anything. And it's like, while Story Monsters is a great magazine, it's like it's being read by teachers, parents, and educators who probably haven't read your book. But again, it's like a book list. They're being inundated with many, many books. So I talk about this about going to festivals. It's like a book candy store. Well, her magazine is like a mini book candy store. And it comes out once a month. So the likelihood of they're finding your one ad with no call to action to tell them to go buy your book or to review your book, and then actually buying your book or reviewing it, are pretty small. So you have to think about what it was you want in the end. Make sure your copy and your marketing plan points you towards it, not just randomly. It's like, it's like trying to hit a bullseye with a wet noodle. It just won't work.
You're absolutely right. And it reminds me of something. When you advertise in Story Monsters, Inc., or you enter the Purple Dragonfly Book Awards, the Royal Dragonfly Book Awards, and you get your book Story Monsters approved. Okay, now what? Mm-hmm. You sit back and you're thinking, now what? Never sit back. Mm-hmm. Don't ask your publisher what they can do for you, but what you can do for them, regardless of the hat you're wearing. But here's what I want to get at. Take the review. If you've earned a review in Story Monsters, Inc., if you've achieved an award of any of our 3 contests, let's look back at that marketing plan. Let's look at a goal you have. One of your goals is to get your book in gift stores. Mm-hmm. Okay. I remember years ago, I hired a sales rep. We ended up getting our book not only in a gift store in Chandler, Arizona, we really gave them the idea And they ended up developing an entire book section. It was a gift store, and unfortunately, they're no longer in business. They were in business for many years, but their emphasis was Arizona. Okay. So guess what? When she approached them, she approaches them with, gee, these books won these type of awards outside of my organization, but they won these awards. And guess what? They have authors who are available for visits to your store. So what do you do now? What do you say to that gift store manager or buyer? You say, when, I don't like the word if, when you distribute my book, I'll be happy to do an author signing. I will be happy to market and promote my author signing. So now this gift store manager is sitting back and thinking, wow, they're going to help market my business. That's exactly right. And then we've had events at some of the gift stores where we've brought Story Monster. We've been invited to Costco's and Sam's Club. Okay. So Donna, you brought up something so valuable. What do you do when you get these awards? If you end up doing an advertorial in the magazine and you're featured, and some are paid for and some are not, but guess what? Shout it off the top of the roofs that you were featured in Story Monsters Inc. If you go to our website, storymonstersinc.com, and you look at the media kit, you're going to see those who are really supporting our magazine and where it's reaching. The reach has, wow, tripled, quadrupled at the beginning of this year. But you know what? We can't do it all, but together we can do it.
Right. And, I talk to my authors all the time about this. It's like, don't wait till the day of your book signing or the week before your book signing. It's like, it takes usually a couple of months, sometimes longer, to get that set up. So I usually will do a post the day that I set that. I'm like, amazing day. I just set a book signing at X bookstore, and then a couple of weeks later when they got my books in, I'm like, I was just at X bookstore today signing my copies, and a photo of my hand signing those copies, with the little sticker as an author signed copy, which you can get from Linda. And
Thank you.
I will do like a little video when I'm leaving. It's like, here's the location. Make sure you write it down, put it in your Google map. Here's a little QR code to get you all the information you need, the time, the date, everything that you need. And keep pre-promoting that, because what you don't want to do is go the week before going, hey, I have a book signing, and people are like, yeah,
I didn't know
I have
about it.
something that night. You want to get on their calendar early. That's why it takes so many weeks to get, or months to get in a bookstore signing, is because you got to get on their calendar. We'll get on everybody else's calendar at the same time.
Well, and one of the things that I encourage, like the gift store, or I'm emphasizing gift store, but whatever type of store, maybe you've got a great cookbook. Maybe it's a bakery. Maybe it's a grocery store. Maybe it's a library. I did an event at the Tempe Public Library, and I called it Bagel and Books. And could I afford to buy bagels and have them at the event? Of course I could. I partnered with, I believe, Whole Food Store. And guess what? They supplied the bagels. Guess what? They promoted it. I promoted them. But what I want to bring up is that when you approach an organization, what I also say to them, again, it's not what it's going to do for me, it's what it's going to do for them. And I'll say, when we do an event at your store, not only am I going to promote it before the event, during the event, and after, but I would be happy to put on my website that they could buy whatever name of the book is, and I will send them a link to your store. You know what? I don't care who's selling my book. I don't care if I make 10 cents or I make $1 or $5, just so we're getting word out. And one of the things, I published an award-winning series called Arizona Way Out West and Wacky, Arizona Color Me Wacky, and Arizona Way Out West and Witty. And one of the things that you might not even be thinking about is you might be sitting on a book of multiple book ideas. The library edition was selected as One Book Arizona for Kids in 2012. The reason we did the library edition, because I was told the activity edition, is really for kids to write in, to draw in, but librarians don't want that. So we gave the libraries what they wanted. Then when I did events, one grandmother said to me, Linda, these are great, but I need something for my grandkids that are much younger. I says, give me time. Listen to what your buyers want. So then Arizona Color Me Wacky. You know, in terms of what I'm working on now, I published this series many years ago, but I'm thinking Arizona history is required study in 3rd grade in Arizona. Okay. That's a whole nother topic. Is, you know, when you select a topic, you know, everybody says they want to get their books in schools. Well, is it required reading? And if it's not, think again. But what I am now coming out with is Arizona Way Out West and Wacky, the play. I have a phenomenal team. It's now coming out. So you may be sitting on a gold mine of materials, just waiting, just absolutely waiting, because now I'm thinking we're all about fun. Let's face it, Story Monsters is edutaining. It's about fun. We don't want the kids to think it's homework or study. It's fun. So now I'm taking it to another level, a play. Okay. So how many books are are on your shelf that you could reposition? Okay.
Yes. And expand. It's like, I take my books, as I said, earlier in the green room, I talk about is I break them down into different themes and topics and stuff that I could talk about, but I also break them down into lesson plans with little 3 to 5 minute videos in a package that a teacher just can go grab and fit that into her lesson plan with the book. And you would be amazed at, how many kids won't actually recognize the book that they will like when they see it. And so, but when they hear it being read, even if it's only a portion of it, oftentimes, or if they're learning about the process or going through one of these lesson plans associated with the book, you get a lot of sales behind that. You get a lot more interest. And, it's, all of these things are completely possible. So as I always say, don't limit yourself by the box. One of my things my mother always told me, she goes, the only thing stopping you from achieving your dreams is the wall that you built between you and them. So knock it down and go get it. I do too. It's like when she said it to me when I was a young child, it's like it didn't make sense, but the older I get, the more it makes sense. So we're going to kind of flip that question upside down. So what do you think are the common kind of missteps, mistakes that kind of self-published authors make when they fall into this kind of marketing and promotion kind of vortex of what, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
A misstep, I'll tell you, when you don't pay attention to the editing and the proofreading. I remember when I published the Economical Guide to Self-Publishing, and before, thank God, it went to press, the word forward was misspelled. Yes, I'm admitting it. But one of my phenomenal proofreaders caught it. Thank you. Just in time. That's a common mistake. Listen, we all make it. But you know what? A good proofreader will prevent that embarrassment. And once again, if you have, like you mentioned, you have one chance at a first impression. And if the first impression is a poor cover design, there's a typo on the cover or the first chapter, do you think they're going to go to the second chapter? Because you know what? They have a stack of phenomenal books sitting behind them to consider. So those are roadblocks. So work with a professional team. Yes.
And I would say, this is one of the big arguments that I make about hiring a professional, experienced editor. One of the first things that I do is I go look for common word mistakes. Forward is one of them. Overuse of words like just, so, and, that, this, those are common words. And what they do is it helps make you sound clearer. And quite frankly, it's nothing about your actual intelligence, but it does make it sound more intelligent to the reader. It sounds a little more concise. I will say this, for myself, I'm an experienced editor and, writer and coach and ghostwriter and all these things that I do. But even I send my stuff to a professional editor because I know what I mean to say. I know what I mean to write, but you know what? I don't always do that. And when I'm reading it, I will just automatically fill in the words the way they're supposed to be because I can't see it. I'm too close to it. I talk about being so deep in the weeds, you can't see the forest for the trees.
And just to reinforce what you're saying, listen to the voice of experience. I can't tell you, I worked with clients over the years that insist on doing things their way. Sure. And I go back to a book I published by, at the time, an 8-year-old who's now an adult, TikTok, Living with Tourette Syndrome. It's from the voice and the words of a 9-year-old at that time. Mm-hmm. And I said to Dylan Peters, the author, we had a suggested title that was very close to what he wanted, but he wanted a different title. Mm-hmm. I says, and I talked to his mom, I says, tell Dylan I'm giving him homework. Mm-hmm. He needs to go and talk to a few librarians, someone at a bookstore. He cannot talk to any family members. Mm-hmm. And I want them to vote. I want him to give him his suggested title, tell them about the book and the title that my team suggested. So fast forward, he came back. I heard from his mom and she goes, Linda, he selected your title. I says, great. I says, is it because he loved it? And it was very close to what he wanted, by the way. She goes, no, he said he wanted to do what was best for the book. Right. So learn from Dylan Peters when he was 8 years old, 9 years old. You know what? I have clients who hire me, they pay me good money, and then they don't take the advice. Mm-hmm. And I have others who end up having, here's one of our newest books, Marking the Magnificent Fairy. Aww. By Cynthia Kern O'Brien. Oh. And it's a new book and we are marketing and promoting it. And this is another, I would say, tip. It's a team effort because if I'm not marketing and promote this, Cynthia Kern O'Brien is. So keep in mind that what are you going to be doing to market and promote your book? And don't count on just one person, one organization, and one thing leads to another. Trust me. But it's because it starts off with giving them, in my opinion, a phenomenal book. Okay. So when it wins awards, you have something wonderful to show off.
Right. And I say this, and I know if you guys listen here on the Writer's Parachute, you've heard me say this 100 times. There really are no rules to writing and publishing. There are only guidelines and guide rails. And yes, you can go over the side, but you better have a good reason for doing it because you don't want to be an outlier for the wrong reasons, because that just will stop you from being able to correctly promote your book or get the things that you want with it. It's like there's a point where you have to decide, am I being stubborn and controlling, or am I being stubborn because I'm sure?
And if you're sure, that's wonderful.
Right.
But know where your sureness is coming from.
Exactly. Like I said, you better have a good reason for going over the side. So we hinted about it a little bit about the Royal and the Purple Dragonfly Awards that you have annually. So we have the Purple Dragonfly Awards are for children's book only. The entries are due by March 3rd of 2024. The Royal Dragonfly Awards are for most genres, and you can see the list on their website. And the entries are due by October 3rd, 2023. So if you guys got a book, you might want to go get your entry in. And then, of course, you also have the Story Monsters Approved, which is primarily for children's book, and that entry is due by February 1st of 2024. You can find all of this stuff at storymonstersbookawards.com. We will have the link for you in the show notes. So I want to know, and I mean, this is my personal question, what possessed you to create such a diverse award system? I mean, I see people do award systems, but it's usually like one award once a year and they're done, and it's like chaos. You have 3 awards, they're efficiently ran, and they're all set up and an amazing program. So I want to know what possessed you to do this,
That's a
and
good
can you
question.
talk a little bit more about them individually?
And I say, Christy Bertini, take a bow.
Mhm.
She does a magnificent job managing them. You know, it all goes back to wanting to let the world know about these great books. And that's why I have focused some on just children, pre-K through 12th grade. And as you mentioned, Royal Dragonfly is for a general audience, including children's books. And Story Monsters approved. You're not competing with other authors and other books. You earn it on its own merit. If it earns enough points, it becomes Story Monsters approved. And when it does, any book that is Story Monsters approved during a given year, if it earns 100% of all the points, it goes on to be considered for Story Monsters Book Award of the Year. Okay. And you know what? And there's a $500 prize. And for the other 2 contests, there's a grand prize, $500. Anybody who knows me gets to know my extreme passion for this and wanting to help other authors. I've been there and done this. And when I needed help at the time, when I tried to, one of the books that I authored and self-published back in another life, the Nannies, Maids, and More, the Economical Guide for Hiring Household Help. When I shifted from teaching, I started a household employment agency.
Mhm.
And I published a couple of books dealing with how to hire household help. I had screened over 5,000 candidates. I placed over 1,000, and there was a method behind my madness. And there was a plan on how to do that and forms to use. So I did the domestic screening kit. I did the options directory of child and senior care services, again, a previous life, and Nannies, Maids, and More, the complete guide for hiring household help, or if the dog likes you, you're hired. And back when I did that, and I had my household employment agency, my husband said, Linda, you really liked doing those books and the domestic screening kit. If you could sell your agency and pursue publishing full-time, well, it didn't take me long to say, yes, that's what I want to do. Fast forward. But you know what? It's kind of like take your passion, surround yourself with a phenomenal team, and do it right, and be open to suggestions.
Yes, constantly learning. That is the whole thing. People think that I'm some kind of tech guru. No, it's because I'm constantly learning and I'm open to new ideas and to try new things. It's like that's part of the reason that we call it the writer's parachute. I'm so willing to go jump off that cliff and build my parachute on the way down.
I love that name, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I think we all feel like we're jumping out of a plane when we publish a book. So I know that you have done so much work in promoting authors, especially children's book authors. I want to know what keeps the passion and the motivation on track for you.
You know, when I do events and I see children embracing Story Monster, when I see them reading books, that teacher in me comes alive again. And I want them to know about all these different wonderful books. I'm doing it. Yeah, I want to promote what I'm doing too for Story Monsters Press. I have some new exciting books coming out. And as I mentioned, you never know what one thing is going to lead to. With Kate and the Garden Bandits, it just won 3 film awards, 2 for Best Book. It won another award, and now she's being invited for the screening in California. She goes, Linda, sign me up. I says, well, you've been invited. So we had a conversation, was it yesterday or this morning? Kind of blends. I says, well, they want a movie poster. I says, would you like us to design one? She goes, yes. Fast forward to one of my team members, we've designed it this morning because they need it right away. So be prepared, have a team. If Story Monsters LLC could support what you're doing and be your team, we're here for you.
Awesome. That is always amazing. So If you could offer one important piece of advice to authors, what would it be?
I want to mention finances.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap to do it right. It's not cheap to be surrounded by a great team. But if you can't afford the investment and the risk because you think you're going to sell 1 million books, please don't do it. You know, you keep trying. Maybe you find a literary agent, okay? But don't put yourself or your family in and having financial issues. I want you to feel great about what you're doing, but I want you to enter into this with realistic expectations.
Yes, and this comes into the planning stage, and budgeting is one of them. And there are options out there. People do the I never can remember the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about, where they'll promote a book, and I just can't think of the name of it right at the moment. But where they'll pre-promote a book and ask for people to help with funding. You can also get sponsorships. In fact, there are large corporations and stuff that'll do that. There are grant money out there. You have to do your homework. If you can't afford it personally, then you need to figure out how you're going to get that funding in one way or another. And it's like, just this is one of those cases where I'm going to say you're really going to want to have that parachute with you, packed and loaded and ready to go. This is not one of those you're going to build it on the way down, because it will just cause a lot of frustration and just kind of make the process very choppy, and you want it to be as smooth as possible. I think that's excellent advice. So I want to know how important you think reviews are to marketing books.
I think they're crucial. I think that I really do. I'm hoping that you will find a way to get it reviewed without having to pay for it. Advertise, yes, whether it's my magazine or someplace else. Advertising is different. That we're not talking about reviews. And I want to emphasize something for what we first started talking about: detective work. Whether you're contacting my company, whether you're contacting me as a publishing consultant, no matter who you are considering, I want you to put your detective hat back on. I want you to Google my name. I want you to Google the name of my company. I want you to go to my testimonial page. I want you to do that for every single company you're thinking about, and look at what the Better Business Bureau has to say about them. You know what? One of the greatest compliments I had from Ed McCombs with Navajo Community College Press many years ago, he said, the best thing I liked about working with Linda F. Radke was her ability to solve problems.
There you go.
The reality is this: I have your back. I'll do the best I can. I will not give you false expectations, but you need to know that the organization you're working with feels the same way about you. My bottom line is to treat people the way that I want to be treated.
Absolutely. And that's just good advice in general. If you're hiring somebody, especially for their expertise or knowledge, and you're going to be paying for them, then, ask for recommendations. Ask for people that you can talk to that are knowledgeable about the services specifically you're looking for. It's like no one should hesitate to give you that information. I say this, when you're looking for editors, I mean, honestly, there's very few certifications for editors. Most of them don't get it. They get it from experience or on the job training. So if you're looking for an editor and you have specific needs for your editing, ask for recommendations, ask for people that you can talk to, and ask for sample edits if you're talking about that. But always do your homework when you're hiring, because again, once you set this team, you want that team to go forward with you, because you're going to be, as I say, once that book's out there, it's out there for your life and beyond, which means you're going to be promoting and marketing it forever, which means you need your team behind you. Now, some of the members may change as you go and grow and expand, but for the most part, that core group, you're going to want to try and have them with you forever. So it's really important that you understand what they can do, what they can't do, and make sure that they fit what your needs are.
I can't help but say one more thing.
Oh, absolutely.
about tips. I want to talk briefly about illustrators.
Mhm.
I have a lot of authors who will approach me, their book's done. And, you know, I says, I will do the best that I can to market and promote your book. And your illustrations are nice,
Mhm.
but they're not what you need to market and promote a book. And and I'll say this, it's so easy to find an illustrator who will do it for next to nothing.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying you're always going to get next to nothing. We are competing with the likes of Disney.
Mhm.
And by the way, some of the folks who work for Disney also work for Story Monsters LLC. But the reality is this, and I'm going to say this again, if you can't afford to work with Story Monsters LLC, make sure you find someone to work with that has the same values and the same levels of excellence. Because when I look at some of the books, the more successful books, it's because they have a book that speaks for itself, okay? And that no matter what they're trying to do, but if you have a book that looks like, oh, this is a sweet book, but
Mhm.
keep going.
Right.
Keep going.
Well, and so the only thing I'm going to add to that is one little caveat, because I hate to leave people in a negative space. So if this has been your experience, if you messed up, you didn't get the best illustrations, you didn't get the best cover, or you didn't get it professionally edited, beautiful thing about it is you can republish it as a second edition and correct all of those things. So, it is not the end of the world. So whether you hear this advice right now when you're thinking about your first book, or you're into your fifth book and you messed up on the first four, then it's still okay. It can be corrected.
I worked with authors. We helped them with their fourth book as an example. And the first three were nice. But she said, Linda, I learned from you. I didn't know you for the first three, and I wish I did. But you know what? Let's take something good and make it even better. I want to come across with solutions, not negativity. Okay.
Absolutely. And I agree, but I always like to just go that little extra step. So of course, here on season 2, we've been talking about reviews, about how to get reviews, the best way to find reviewers, what to do with those reviews, how to promote for reviews, how to use that to promote your book, all of these things. So I'm going to put you on the spot as a guest, and I want you to review the Economical Guide to Self-Publishing.
Wow. Well, the Economical Guide to Self-Publishing, it is your roadmap to publishing. It's your roadmap to doing it right. But it's your roadmap that's going to give you some tips on how to save along the way. But it's going to give you red flags, and don't even think about going there. And so with that said, you're going to find about where do you start? What do you need? Who can help you when you need professional assistance? How can you market economically? Why have a marketing plan? And when you're done, and this knowledge, how do I say this, is timeless. Because you know what? Whether you started publishing 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 2 months ago, a lot of these things stand the test of time. And you want to make sure your book does too.
Absolutely. 5 stars. I love it. And she's absolutely right. Book was published several years ago, but the information, the advice, and the help that she gives in her book is timeless. It will stand the test of time. Maybe some of the names and players have changed a little bit, but the information is golden. So what's next for Linda and Story Monsters?
We're in the process. I produced a theme song called it's the Story Monster theme song. And if you go to studiostorymonster.com, you've got to listen to it. And when the song was less than 2 weeks old, and again, I'm marketing and promoting myself. I practice what I preach. I entered some of these, I'm going to call it indie music contest. And what I didn't realize is these professionals were going to be really checking out my song. And it's like, oh my heavens, what did I do to myself? And the reviews started coming in that were fabulous. And I mean, the Story Monster theme song in the top 100 songs in this, I'm going to call it in the indie music industry, within the first few weeks, it reached number 5.
Awesome.
And so now we're doing more. I have an audio book coming out as we speak for Marky the Magnificent Fairy. And when you listen to it, once again, I practice what I preach. I have a phenomenal team. And if you go to Studio Story Monster, you'll see some of the phenomenal people who are not only doing work for Story Monsters LLC, they also do work for Disney, etc. But I have these visions and I have a team that believes in them. And I will leave you with this thought. One day I said to Christy Bertini, my phenomenal editor-in-chief of Story Monsters, Inc., I says, Christy, I want to thank you for believing in me. And she says, Linda, you need to believe in yourself. And so she gave me this Believe necklace that I don't think I've taken off yet. It is a constant reminder to believe and to surround yourself with an incredible team.
Yes, absolutely. And, I always tell people, some people know about the words of the year and stuff like that, where you start the year and you have a word to kind of remind you of your focus for that year. And I always tell people the first year when you're doing that book, your word should always be believe. Believe you can do it, believe you'll finish it, believe that somebody wants to read it, because that one word, as it helped you find your inner strength, will help them find their inner strength to keep going. And I absolutely love that. So I know that you have so many services that they can reach out to you for. So where can they reach you and find out all about those services?
Thank you. If you go to storymonsters.com, it includes information about all of the above. And at storymonsters.com, there's an area about us, and there's an area to contact us. You can set up a free 15 to 30-minute consultation. The best place to do it is online, because then it will let you know when I'm available. You can set up a time, and you never know where that first conversation will lead. I promise you that I will be painfully but diplomatically honest with you. And one of the first things I do before I even let someone consider hiring me to produce, promote, or market their book is to have their manuscript evaluated first, because I tell them, you're going to know what we're made of. Yes, there's a fee for that, okay? But I think that's a great place to start.
Absolutely. And I also know that you're on social media. I follow you on social media. I love your Facebook group, but you're pretty much everywhere. So what platforms can they follow you on?
Thank you for asking. At Facebook, it's Story Monsters. Twitter, Story Monsters. LinkedIn, if you just search for Story Monsters, I mean, sometimes it's Story Monsters LLC. If you just start with Story Monsters, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you'll find us.
Okay.
There's only one place you won't.
Where's that?
TikTok.
Oh, well, yeah, I
know that's political, but that's the only place you will not find me.
Well, I have a different ideas around social media. I'm kind of it's a tool. I'm in there. I do what I need to do, and then I'm out.
And that's fine. But that's the only place. I started there, but I was given advice and I listened. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, I understand that. All right. So again, we'll have all the links to all of her social media for you. So the direct links so you can go follow Linda and get updates from Story Monsters. So do you have any upcoming events that you would like to let our listeners know about?
Yes, thank you. I am doing another Story Monster Lives Here Greenie Bag event with Title I students. I have been asked to give away 300 Greenie bags. I am going to be giving away not only 300 for students. I was told there are going to be 40 teachers attending, and they want 9 bags for the raffle. I have committed to doing it. And if you go to my online store, there's an opportunity to participate and be one of our sponsors. The details are there, and you can always call me with any questions. But the co-op fees allow me to do what I'm doing, and it's giving word out. Just very briefly, I did a wonderful lunch with a friend. Her daughter is an educator in Portugal. I gave her a greenie bag, and the first thing she asked me was about one of our sponsors on the back, about dancing. I says, we're going to have to check out their website. So I'm always marketing and promoting. So you never know where Story Monster Lives Here greenie book and bag is going to land. So please check that out.
Awesome. Well, we certainly will do that. Was there any other kind of newsletters, signups, or giveaways that you want to share? I know you have one, and I want everybody to listen. This is an amazing offer she's going to give us here.
I want every single person listening, and you can share this. I want to give every single person a free 12-month digital subscription to Story Monsters, Inc. The promo code is 12 months. The number 12, 1, 2, and then months is all capitalized. I want you to go in there. I want you to sign up, and it's free. So it's, even if you paid, it's economical. And then share.
And we will have the link to that along with the promo code to get your free 12-month digital subscription to Story Monsters, Inc. That is incredibly generous. And again, she say that you can share that beyond the listeners. So if you know a children's author, you know a parent, you know a child, you know a teacher, a librarian, some kind of educator, make sure you share that wonderful gift with them. We want to spread Story Monsters around the world. Was there anything else that you want to include before we go jump over and do our tip of the week?
You know, I want to emphasize again my phenomenal team. Paula Hurd, my office administrator, you know, how these people put up with me all this time and all these years, I am forever grateful.
Well, they do an amazing job. And if they were working for me, I would be doing cartwheels and handstands myself. So tell them I totally appreciate everything that they do.
I will.
All right. Well, we're going to do our tip of the week, and we kind of talked about so many things. It was really hard for me to kind of narrow down what we want to talk about our tip of the week. So, I want to, remind you of Linda's motto, and it's like, do it right or don't do it at all. And I think that just kind of underscores everything that we've been talking about. But I did want to key on the two main things that we were talking about, because they kind of go hand in hand. And it was the media kit and marketing plan. They need to work together. A marketing plan is how you're going to promote, how you're going to market. It's thinking into the future. What am I going to do to get people to notice my book? How am I going to get it into stores? How am I going to get on radio stations, TV stations, in magazines, whatever it is that you want to do to market? How do I get to these associations? How do I get to the people that need to read my book? How do I get to those reviewers? That's all part of your marketing plan. Again, it's future looking. How am I going to do what I need to do? The media kit is something that you're going to be giving out to anybody in the media, anybody that's doing any kind of advertising, any kind of promotion, or anything like that. Even people like me who are doing interviews want a media kit. Media kits sound scary or really pretty simple. It's about you, about your books, about what you've done with them, awards, organizations, speaking engagements, spectacular reviews. You don't want to have all of them, but pick the, your best ones. And then, of course, links to any other interviews or articles that have been written or done about you. And the reason that's important is because they want to see how you handle yourself when you're being interviewed or when you're on television or radio station. They want to see if you're prepared and ready. And then also something that I always tell people to add, simply because it's nice and you will always get a thank you note from somebody when you add this to your media kit, suggested questions. And I always titled a paragraph before those suggested questions what you need to know to sound like you read this book.
I love it.
Because the truth is, I get books all the time. And it's like, sometimes I get books that are 40, 50 pages long. Sometimes I get books that are 100 plus pages long. Sometimes I get 500-page books. And, when you're doing so many episodes and people send you books, and sometimes they'll send you 2 or 3 because they want to talk about all of them, it's like, it's almost impossible for me to read the entire book in the amount of time. Otherwise, I'd have no time to do anything else. So I do appreciate that section myself as a media person. So don't forget, maybe that will turn the maybe for the interview into yes, because you're helping them save time. Again, this is what we talked about earlier with the marketing about this partnership. If you're helping the person interview you, not have to do so much of the heavy lifting by helping them understand your book and what they need to know to be able to interview you, sometimes that's helpful. Also the questions, because that gives them an indication of what you would like to focus on. And if you don't know suggested questions, listen to a few interviews. There are 5 basic questions that are in every interview. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you doing it? And where can we reach you? And where can we get your books? Those 5 questions are going to be in everything else. Usually there's somewhere between 5 to 10 other ones. Those you can just make up as you need, but focus those primarily on what you want to talk about. So I know there is so much more information that we could talk about around marketing plans, media kits, reviews, getting reviews, being a review detective, all of these things that we've covered today. So if you would like more information, first of all, I encourage you to go grab Linda's 2 books, which is the Economical Guide to Self-Publishing and Promote Like a Pro, Small Budget, Big Show. But also reach out to us here at the Writer's Parachute. You can leave us a note in the comments, or you can email us direct at info@thewritersparachute.com, or wherever you're listening to us on a podcast channel, you can leave a show note there as well. And we will get back to you if you have any specific questions or if you want more information. We're always here to try and educate and uplift everyone. But of course, we are timed, so we don't get to go into depth on everything. It's just a taste, but I do encourage you to seek out more information on these topics. So as always, I want to thank Linda for being our guest today. I can't tell you how thankful and how overjoyed that you said yes when I asked you to come on this show. So thank you. Thank you so very much. As always, I am so thankful to get to be the host here on the Writer's Parachute, guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. And I hope that you find this a safe place to land your dreams well too. Until next time, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.